But now it's time to delve deeper into all the political shenanigans of the week, and I'm delighted that we're joined by Jonathan Gibson. Good morning.
Good morning, David.
Very nice to have you back again.
Great to be here.
So obviously lots going on politically.
Wow, what a week.
What a week. Yeah, what did you make of that first debate?
Wow, it was really interesting to see who really thrived in it and who came across a bit more stiff, a bit more wooden. Liz Truss certainly did not have the best debate of her life. Tom Tuggenhort also seemed slightly stiff and slightly awkward in it, I thought. I thought Rishi came across very smoothly, quite well. He was certainly more confident than the others in terms of his talking about the economic difficulties Britain were facing and what he was going to do. But I think what it really did was it exposed the great rifts between the different candidates and different factions of the Tory party, and it also brought tax, which really seems to be the big issue in this Conservative election, to a head.
Yes, I would agree with that. So out of all of those performers, who do you think did best?
I think personally Rishi did the best. He seemed the smoothest, he seemed the most confident.
Now, there's a document, isn't there, circulating, I don't know if you've seen it, from the MPs to each other. It's basically a Stop Rishi document. It's basically detailing everything that he's done. Clearly, Rishi obviously is a very oiled performer. He was Chancellor of the Exchequer. You'd expect him to be pretty good. I was surprised by Liz Truss. I think what she said was good, but she looked nervous, didn't she?
Yeah, she did look a bit awkward, a bit out of place,
And what do you think, Renée?
She was dull. I think she was as dull as ditchwater.
She was dull, said as it is.
But she was. And people don't warm to that. You know, she's a woman. She's done really well in politics. She looked like a frumpy old woman. I'm going to say that. I know that's a terrible thing to say. She had on a Margaret Thatcher blouse, and she was as dull as ditchwater.
Interesting. OK, so where are we now? So clearly, today, another debate. In the papers right now, we're seeing them laying out their policy, or at least their manifestos. I was really taken by Rishi Sunak. Now, I had gone completely off him because he doesn't want to cut tax. Our TalkTV viewers do want to see tax cut. They want to see the reverse of national insurance. They want to see corporation tax dropped. Rishi Sunak doesn't want to do any of that, but he is actually saying a lot of stuff that we do like. Bonfire of EU regulations.
Yeah, so he is saying that in the first 100 days of his establishing power, hopefully, well, in his eyes, hopefully, he wants to get rid of almost all of the EU regulation and EU laws. And it will be interesting to see whether he could do this, because the question that I saw after reading that, or I thought of, was, why hasn't he done this before? That's what I can't quite understand. I mean, it's like the Tory government have been in power for 12 years, and it's the same almost with Liz Truss talking about how she wants to get rid of the Stalinist housing policies, as she puts it. She's been in a position of very senior power for a long time, so I don't quite understand why they haven't done this. And I know their attention's been diverted, obviously, because of COVID, but then they've done things like changing to imperial units. There's been other things which, seemingly not COVID, which have been gone through the radar. So why hasn't this already happened if this is something they're so passionate about?
So also, we've been talking about a disconnect between what the members of Parliament are thinking and actually what our viewers are thinking, and it seems they're very different. So I just looked at this survey yesterday, this Conservative Home survey, admittedly a small survey, but Kemi Badenoch comes out first.
I know, and that's, I think, been quite surprising. She's been quite a surprise candidate, as well as Penny Mordaunt, to a lot of people. I think she came across quite well in the debate. I think she did a fairly good job. She's definitely on the right of the party, and she's got some interesting policies. I'm not sure necessarily she's got the experience or she's quite ready yet, but she's doing quite well.
So tonight's debate, who, if you're going to wager on it, who's going to do the best debate tonight?
I just think Rishi seems like he's been preparing for it for so long that in terms of the style, not necessarily talking about the content or his policies or anything like that, but in terms of his style and his performance, he's very good. I think Penny Mordaunt can come across quite well as well sometimes.
She went down 20.
She did, yes. Yeah. She really suffered in that debate, almost as fast as her rise.
Kemi went up 19.
Yeah, she did very well, so maybe Kemi could.
What do you think?
Is Rishi not slick like Tony Blair, and people maybe
he waved his arms like
again?
Tony Blair.
He sounds like Tony Blair. He looks like Tony Blair, and I wonder if he's actually too slick. People don't want slick, they want real. They want people who are real, who relate to them.
Okay.
Interesting.
I think Rishi suffers from that in some ways because his life is so far removed probably from some average person. I mean,
how can the multi-billionaire understand us poor people?
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
He's building, what is it, a 13,000 heated pool in his back garden. I mean, yeah, honestly. He's got walking around in his £800 shoes or however much they are. I think it's £335. He struggled to use the contactless credit card. Do you remember that video? That was brilliant. Yeah. So I think Penny Mordaunt has that advantage over him in that she seems more relatable.
So tell me, Boris Johnson on manoeuvres, what's he doing?
Oh, this is really interesting. So he wants to give 2 peerages to Nadine Dorries, his most loyal Cabinet Office Minister.
Nadine Dorries, right.
And also to Nigel Adams, who essentially was with him from the very start, supporting him, his efforts to become Prime Minister, and then also really being one of the key people in trying to maintain his position of power.
What do you think of that?
I mean, it just shows Tory cronyism, doesn't it? It just shows how sort of institutional, how people reward loyalism over ability. And that's something Kemi's actually said she's not going to do. She specifically said she wants to be surrounded with people with talent rather than people that are just
there are
loyalists.
over 850 peers in that house.
Get rid of that house.
Well, I think it needs massive reform. It's ridiculous. There are more of them than there are in MPs. That cannot be right, can it? And also, if you're a mate, you can't get shoved in the upper house. That doesn't seem right at all.
No, it doesn't seem right. And there's been a lot of recent Tory peerages and Tory honours that have gone to people. There was one to Gavin Williamson. There's been to people who have been donating to the Tory party. As someone that did A-levels just a couple of years ago, I can tell you a lot of us were not very happy when he got knighted. And there's also, what's really interesting about this is that it's going to trigger by-elections in the 2 constituencies.
Yes, so constituencies are what? Bedford, Mid-Beds?
Mid-Beds, exactly, and Selby and Ainslie.
Right.
So they have massive Tory majorities at the moment.
Oh, so therefore they think they can get away with that by doing
Boris
that.
has framed it as a challenge to his successor.
Great start for a new Prime Minister to have to face by-elections.
Watch him, he'll do something else. He will do something else before we know it. And very quickly, COVID boosters are going to be rolled out.
Exactly, so there's a change. Originally the 50 to 65-year-olds bracket were not going to be jabbed early, but now they are, and they're also going to health and social care.
50 to 65?
Yeah, so they initially weren't, and now they are, because now 1 in 18
vaccine,
people...
not for new variants.
Not for new variants, and worth doing, yes or no?
No.
Right, thank you very much. That's the doctor talking. I mean, it is ridiculous, but here we go again. You know, the fact is more and more vaccines. We've already vaccinated. By the way, Jonathan, thank you very much for coming in. You've been absolutely brilliant. I hope you come in again.